How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm good.
Okay. So the way we start out, we just say 3, 2, 1, and we both say hello emphatically and terrify the people watching online to wake them up. Hello! Welcome back to What's the Safe Word? I'm Amp.
I'm Kevin Allison from Risk.
And today we're going to talk about some risky stories because I think that's kind of your job at this point, right?
That is my job. I curate this storytelling show where people tell true stories that they never thought they'd dare to share in public. And some of them get incredibly kinky.
And I think that there's a huge audience for that online. If your channel, your podcast, people like Dan Savage, even our audience is really supportive of that kind of thing.
Well, it's kind of fascinating because Risk is not just kinky stories, it's also stories, incredibly emotional things that happen to people in their lives or just things that they feel very intimate about. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of our fans listening are not kinky at all, but they write in consistently about how, oh my God, I'm not at all like that kinky guy, but the emotions he described in that story just really illuminated something for me. So a lot of people can relate without even being kinky themselves. And then other people write in how, oh my God, I thought I was a total freak. And then I heard that story and now I'm like, oh my God, there's other people like me.
You're welcome. I listen to your podcast and other podcasts as I work because it's just very easy to do. And the one vivid time I was listening to your podcast, I was listening to this guy tell a story about how when he was younger, he moved to San Francisco, of all places, to be in a relationship with an older guy.
Like a daddy boy sort of relationship where there really was a huge age difference. But it's so beautiful, it's so romantic, and it's so tragic.
Long story short, it becomes a little tragic and sad because as you get older, things happen. And so I'm on the phone with this older lady who's trying to order a chastity device for her husband and bawling my eyes out because I'm listening to this podcast. What it works like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just listening to a podcast and it's really, really getting to me.
People often complain that they'll either burst out laughing in public while they're listening to the show or start crying or, get all horny listening to the show.
Yes. Anyway, that side anecdote apart, you were gracious enough to come on the show today and you had an idea to listen to some true stories that I've never heard before that are coming up on Risk and also just interesting in general.
6 of these clips have been on Risk before,
okay.
So they're out there, you can find them. But one of them is going to go up on next week's episode, so no one has heard this one before.
I'm excited. So these are going to be live reactions from me, and I'm sure live interactions interacting with me. Let's just get right into it.
Okay, so I created this Risk story called Kevin Goes to Kink Camp, and here is a clip from the story where at the age of 41, I, as a gay man, am in the story trying sex with a woman for the first time in my life. Her name was Strap-On Joe, and that was her specialty. Her specialty was fucking guys with a strap on. And I was like, I've never played with a woman before. She was so much fun. She just exuded so much fun energy. So I was like, yeah, I'll let you fuck me with that strap on. Here's the clip of what you hear in the story.
And the scene just got more and more intense, and we're sweating up a storm, and I'm sounding like King Kong. She's egging me on, and I went into that realm where you just feel out of control and happy to be there. And pound, 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 and finally, the explosion.
What happened?
That was when I came in the story. I was suffering from a lot of social anxiety, which I often do at these kink events. So I was having a hard time orgasming throughout the whole of Kevin Goes to Kink Camp. So that's what I'm referring to in the story. Finally, the explosion, meaning I came.
And that was your first time with a woman whatsoever?
Yes. Strap-On Joe, she got to tap into her inner gay leather daddy, and it was really fun.
Well, and we get questions sometimes from women or female-bodied people that are like, well, I want to be a daddy.
Yeah.
And daddy is definitely about mindset. It's not about age. It's not about personality so much. It's just about your mindset and how you choose to identify.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've seen some lesbians that they know how to work a dick.
Oh, yeah.
Do you still keep in contact with Strap-on Joe?
I do. So this next story, Allison Moon she's a lesbian writer. Well, I guess her partner is male, but she's a lesbian.
Wait a sec. I'm all for queerness and like different terminology. Can you please explain that though?
Well, I think that she's very versatile.
Me too.
She writes lesbian erotica, a fiction, really fun, creative stuff. And in a lot of it, it's like werewolf porn, you know?
I think that's sex, sure. Taylor Lautner did things.
This story, Allison is throwing a furry orgy among a group of about 7 or 8 lesbians at her apartment. So they're all dressed up like foxes and hounds and stuff like that, and they're chasing each other around. And they're playing a game of fuck the fox, basically. So they've chased this fox around, and now they're all gonna fuck the fox, and then this happens.
We're all starting to get whooped up, right? So we're making the noise, and I'm like, doing my full-on hound dog thing. Huge racket, people are watching, people are laughing, we're making all sorts of noise, we're getting really ramped up, right? And then as we're doing in walks my roommate with her mother.
Oh.
And so we're in this like, hi! We all kind of wave like kids at a slumber party, and Lydia's mom walks in, she kind of takes in the scene. She's, okay, hi, okay, all right.
One of my own fears about the stories that I've shared on Risk is, oh my God, what if my mother ever heard this? Fortunately, my mom is not very good at using the internet, so.
I've always wondered if my mom's ever seen anything that I've done, and I know how I would talk about it with her, but being walked in on is never fun.
Oh gosh, I mean, the whole energy of something is so fragile that to have someone just walk in from another world is like the universe is collashing. Collashing?
Colliding?
Colliding.
Collapsing? Collapsing is it's a type of impact play.
Sure.
What happens after this story?
I can't even remember. I think that in this story, I think the mom just kind of secrets away into another room, and it's one of those things where, well, we just won't talk about this,
Good for her, at least. I mean, she's not shaming, it doesn't sound like, but yeah, that's a difficult conversation to have. Have you ever had someone walk in on you?
Well, my mom walked in on me once when I was trying to suck my own dick. And, this
You were just doing yoga.
Yeah, way back when I was like, I don't know, maybe in junior high or something like that. Walked in, I flopped back, I went, flopped back down like a fish. Another one of those cases where she just closed the door and never was spoken of again.
If you're a parent, talk to your kids about sex, please. If you don't have the means or the power or the comfort level to talk to your kids about something like that, provide them good opportunities or good instances of sex education. There's so much good stuff out there, and it's so sad to see where our country is currently going with sex education.
My only thing is, if you're a furry, you should have a very accessible, butt. You should be able you should have a trap door that opens very easily.
Well, see, they do that. I have a lot of furry friends. They do have fursuits that have zippers in the front and back, and I believe those are called mersuits. I only know
Good to know.
because I did research.
So, this next story is about another kink camp experience of mine. A much more recent story where I'm at an all-male kink camp. I'm watching a rope master who has hung a couple of twinks up from the ceiling. And he's kind of like playing with these twinks like they're marionettes, and it's just gorgeous and beautiful, and I'm mesmerized by it. And a couple guys walk up to me. One is this really hot Puerto Rican boy that I've kind of been making eyes at the whole weekend. And the other is this guy who looks like Ed Harris, you know? So this older daddy who's like, you know, very like, I don't know, very attractive in his own right. So those two come up to me and they say, oh my gosh, are you guys going to the water sports party tomorrow? And I said, oh gosh, yes, I'm totally planning on doing that. You know, I'll never forget how the first time someone used me as a urinal, I was so surprised at how much I loved it. At that moment, they looked at each other and they were like, it's time for an ambush. They didn't say that out loud, but ambushes
they shared that
are a
look.
thing. Yeah, they shared a look, and they gave me a little look too, like something's coming. There was a lot of nonverbal communication happening that made me feel safe with these guys.
Oh.
But they kind of got me in a headlock. They led me out of the dungeon. They handcuffed me, my hands behind my back. But you know, the best part was when the Puerto Rican guy, he was like, wait, we should get his phone. We should take my phone out of my pocket.
Considerate.
Yeah, when he did that, I was like, okay, I'm in good hands. I can relax with these people. But they led me to a grassy knoll and started yelling at the guys who were waiting in line to use the urinal at, like a real urinal. They were like, hey guys, no, don't use that. We've got a urinal right here. Pissing in my mouth and all over me. So this is the part where the Ed Harris guy jumps into the action.
Ed Harris is up next, and the taste is a lot harsher. But he's also pissing like a racehorse, so he can sense that he's pretty much waterboarding me, right? So he pulls back and he starts to piss all over the crown of my head and right into my eyes and then down my chest. It's a baptism, right? I'm moaning, half in desire and half in dread. And I can hardly see now with so much piss stinging my eyes. But I'm arching my back toward all of them to like let them have at it, and that's when a bunch of them just let loose. Maybe like 7 streams coming at me at once, and there's a river running down my chest down to this pool in the crotch of my jeans.
Well done.
Thank you. Yes. That's how explicit Risk can be.
No, but I love that though.
Well, the thing of it is I go more into that in this story because there's like 7 different guys there, and if someone's very well hydrated, you know, not so bad. If someone's like got some sort of vitamin deficiency or you know, like
or red
asparagus.
Meats. Yeah. Oh, no.
This one is another crazy one. This is a woman, her name's Gretchen, and she's from down south, and she talks about how in the earliest days of the internet, you know, back when in order to download porn it was like 1 line at a time of a picture coming at you, she discovered a site. She met an older man there, and they started like having this fabulous kind of back and forth, like this flirtation, all these fantasies that they were sharing with each other that moved on from spanking into, you know, even more lurid material. They started getting a little more personal with each other and learning about, you know, their lives outside of kink. And she realized, oh my God, I think I'm talking to my father.
Plot twist.
And he said, if your name is Gretchen, what in the hell are you doing on this site? So my face went numb again, and I knew at this point exactly what I was dealing with, and I had no more illusions. So I just answered, well, Dad, I guess I'm doing the same thing here that you're doing, and this is kind of weird. And he said, you need to sign off immediately. And I said, excuse me, I think maybe I was here first.
Oh my God. I don't even know what I would do.
It's a good thing that she still has a good relation. You know that
They do.
They've totally
They've worked out their kinks.
Yeah, I mean it was very awkward for a while, but she mended her relationship.
How do they get that far into it and not realize or send pictures or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny, especially in the early days of the internet, people were a little less aware of, you know, how weird things could get when you're making up a persona and going by an anonymous name and all that kind of thing. But this is a story about, it's another daddy-boy relationship. And it's a long story. It's probably 35 or so minutes long. And it's a really beautiful story about an older man and a younger guy kind of getting to know each other. They developed a really, really intimate relationship. And the daddy guy had fantasies about water sports and scat play. And so they talked about it in a kind of like, here's fantasies, but that never needs to actually happen.
Which is enough for some people.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, there are things that I fantasize about, which I can share with people I'm intimate about, but not need to actually go there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes actually going there might be, well, messier than you can handle.
So would you say this story was moving in many ways?
It's moving and it's bowel moving. Get ready for this, because this is the climactic moment in the story.
I just began to rim him again. I felt his body relax in a way that I'd never felt it relax when I rimmed him before, and I felt the energy shift, and I felt something change in him physically. And I kept on rimming him, and at one point I noticed my tongue could go in so much further than I thought it could. And that was because his anus was expanding, and the smell was just overpoweringly erotic and beautiful. It was a combination of that scent that was just exclusively his, and then it was also the smell of his ass. It was just the raw, masculine smell of his ass, and my tongue came up against something firm and pointy, and I thought to myself, oh my God, Drayton, that's his shit.
So,
you can't just leave it there, Kevin.
you know what's so nice about that story, though, is that he's so articulate. You know, he's really thought about this experience, and he's able to kind of, like, hearing it out of context like that is a little, I mean, it's abrupt. It's shocking no matter what. It's shocking no matter what. But hearing it in context, you get to know more and more about these guys exploring things together that they are kind of afraid to explore, feel kind of taboo. But there's a real intimacy in it that is actually moving, and I think he articulates it quite well. But yeah, this will be something a lot of people have never heard before. There's been a lot of poop stories on Risk because everyone probably has one crazy poop story in their life.
Never trust the fart. Don't do it. Trust me. So, when someone's articulate and they're able to express their feelings around a kink, while scat is not my thing, I understand that people have kinks that they can't always express because it's not socially acceptable.
We get emails on a weekly basis from people saying, oh gosh, it meant so much to me to hear that person being honest about that because I have those same feelings, or oh, I don't know, I just related to it in some way that really surprised me. So there really is something like deeply connecting and human and cathartic about sharing our true stories about this very intimate stuff. So many people's kinks are just like, they don't make much logical sense, or, you know, some people look at kinks as like something to psychologically like unravel, and it's like, no, a lot of them are just like, it's weird, and it's okay that it's weird.
And it's hardwired too. Yeah, no, absolutely. Everyone's got something.
Absolutely.
And it comes from somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
Fortunately for him, he knows where his kink comes from. It's from someone's digestive system. I'm trying to get it all full circle. Full circle.
Okay, I think we've got one more.
Okay. I think I can digest one more story, Kevin.
You can stomach it?
I can stomach it.
So this guy got up, 60-year-old guy. He was in a sexless marriage for, I don't know, I think it was like 15 years or something like that. Oh. So it was really, he was very, very, very bottled up. But then his wife gave him the okay. They opened the marriage so that she gave him the okay to go to a sex party for the first time.
Good for her.
She kind of tosses him aside at one point into the realm of a gay man. Takes this straight guy and starts a blowjob scene. Basically has the guy give him a blowjob. And what's so fascinating about the story is you're hearing a straight man who was in his 50s, I think at the time, having his very first sexual experience with another male and finding it absolutely, to his total surprise, transcendent. Suddenly he felt so freed by this experience of being the guy just letting himself kind of be mouth-fucked by this other guy.
Oh,
and
that's beautiful.
It was truly beautiful for him. So this is how he ended the story, talking about how he walked away from that sex party and what he was thinking.
So as a 60-year-old man, I stand here. And I look back that 8 years to that erotic encounter. And I know it was right then that I decided that no matter where I am on my journey to integrate my determined creative engineer with my wild erotic expression, that I am good enough for who I am. And the world is a better place if I stop fighting for my freedom and live as a man who is already free.
Oh, I got chills. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, it's really, really moving when it's very common for people to share stories on Risk, or in this case at the Mystery Box in Portland, and get emotional about it because they're talking about some of the most emotional moments in their life. And it's so meaningful to be able to open up to people that way and have a supportive room being like, yeah, you go, good for you. So that's a lot of what Risk is all about.
But I think that's why stories are important. And that's why I really appreciate the stuff that you do and the stories you congregate and the people you bring into your community, as it were, of Risk.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're not just kinky stories on Risk. Some are funny, some are terrifying. But yeah, I think that the fact that so many kinky people have shared stories on the show it's just meant the world to so many of our listeners.
Well, it's representation.
Yeah.
I mean, it, like many things in our society, there's not enough representation for certain subgroups or cultures or genders or sexualities, and when we see more of that open out there and we see more people supporting it, it becomes more something that's more appropriate or okay to talk about. Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's the case with a lot of things. It's not okay until more representation's out there, but
it just reminds you, okay, we're all human. It teaches you how to have equanimity and compassion. So it's an awesome thing that people are sharing.
But then you see things like even YouTube or other corporations that, especially right now, it's a big thing to censor or demonetize or ding certain people for talking openly about certain things like their sexuality or their gender or their kinks, and that's such a problem. I don't know what to do about it. I mean,
I think all we can do is just to keep sharing, wherever we can, to keep being there for each other and keep sharing our stories
and be supportive of each other. Mm-hmm. Whew, okay, well that was a lot of stories. That was a wonderful parade of stories that I am...
Parade?
Parade, isn't that a word?
I think it's the same as collaging.
Collaging. Well...
This has been a collaging of marade.
Is it myrade?
Mirage?
Marade is totally a word, Kevin. Wait a sec. M-Y-R-A-I-D is a word.
Oh, myriad.
Myriad. I can't say words. That's... Oh, well.
That also sounds like, myriad.
Kevin, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to share not only your stories, but the stories of many people that need representation in our community. Where can people find not only you, but Risk?
You can find Risk anywhere that you can download an audio podcast, but you can also find us at risk-show.com. There's lots of information about our tours, how to submit your own stories to us, lots of information on the site. Also, we're coming out with a book that you can find at theriskbook.com. So look for that. There'll be some kinky stories in the book too.
Good. Because reading is what?
Fundamental?
There you go. Good job. I wasn't sure if you were going to get that, but good
I was
job.
like, I might be too old.
No.
You can also find me on Twitter at @TheKevinAllison.
And whether you're kinky in your sex life or not, we always ask that you have a safe word at the end of every episode, and the guest is always the one that gets to choose that. So what is today's safe word, Kevin?
You know, I always go with red as a safe word because it's just so easy. Have people said that before?
I don't know. Usually they choose something like really funny or like topical, but I totally like red. I was actually talking with a friend the other day who was like, I don't really like that you always use different words for safe words. Like, even though it is kind of just like a theme to the show. And I was like, no, but red is absolutely like a normal thing. It's consistent. Parties always know what it means.
Red as just like, okay, we're pulling the emergency brake.
Well, and it's a universal color that generally means like, stop, look out, don't do that, you know?
Some people call me Red Kev.
And that'll be our soundbite to end the episode.
Oh, Marriott.
So make sure you guys check out Risk. If you have any questions for Kevin, or if you want to tell your own stories, leave them down in the comments below. My brain's not working right now, so we're going to sign off. Thank you so much again, Kevin, for coming on the show. Check out all of his social medias. Go support Risk. Listen to their stories. They're super moving. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
I hope that was fun for you as much as it was for me.
Super fun for me. Yeah. I thought that went fabulous. Oops.
You're fine.
I'm falling apart. Oh, Myriad.